Thank you to Brand Innovators. I am super excited to be here with these amazing panelists today to talk about the state of CPG and media. Oh, hello? No. All right, I'm just going to do this. We're going. It's what? Okay. We'll just share mics, totally fine. So thank you for having us. I can start the introductions. My name is Alyssa. I am a senior sales director at Seedtag. For anyone who is not familiar with Seedtag, we are a global contextual platform with a proprietary AI called Liz. We help our brands connect with their target audience through providing real-time insights into contextual-based cookie-less environment and through personalized ad experiences. So I will turn it over to everyone else to kind of introduce themselves, their roles, and a little bit about your background.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Laillah Rice. I am the global head of growth and digital experiences for Elemis, which is a part of L'Occitane. I actually serve as the key point person in driving digital innovations in the roadmap for Elemis as well. And I also lead our CRM and digital teams in terms of driving acquisitions and also retention opportunities for Elemis as well. Prior to Elemis, I have a long career in marketing, brand marketing, consumer insights in terms of leading teams across several brands and also industries ranging from pharmaceutical industry to CPG and also industrial. Nice to meet you all.
And hi, everyone. I'm Jim Kensicki. I look after operations for GroupM Nexus in the US. I've been in this role for 3 years, GroupM for 8, and in the industry for just over 20. I actually started in affiliate marketing in the early 2000s and kind of slowly gravitated more to the nerdy side of our business. I look after ad operations, analytics, and some of our enablement functions, offshore and automation that kind of help our teams do more with less, go faster.
I am on the nerdy side. Hello? Okay. I am on the nerdy side. So, hi, I'm Ipsitaa Panigrahi. I am the Senior Manager for Marketing Effectiveness at Danone. It's my 4th day at Danone, and I've come from Mondelez. So I'm still thinking Mondelez in my head, where I was leading the global Center of Excellence team for digital measurement and creative excellence. So my job there was pretty much to build and shape up our digital measurement foundation, and then to build a strategy for creative excellence and effectiveness. Prior to that, I've had a career spanning across engineering, journalism, and then agency analytics side. It just feels very nice to be here today because I started my career at Wavemaker back when it was called MEC, so that was definitely a while ago, but definitely feels very nice to be here and among all the panelists. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aimee Hocking. I'm the Director of Brand Activation at GoGo squeeZ. So we are a kids snack brand, so we're most well known for our applesauce in a pouch with a green helicopter cap, but we also have other snacks. So we really come from farm to pouch. So we don't just blend apples, we blend fruit and vegetables. We have functional products to help brain health and immunity, and also a dairy portfolio. So we have yogurt and also smoothies as well. So my role there covers kind of 2 areas. So traditional brand management, so portfolio strategy for the existing portfolio, commercial innovation, as well as brand planning. And then on the other side, my team there looks after all of our content marketing. So before, I've been there about 2.5 years. Before that, I also was at Mondelez, so we're next to each other. So I spent about a decade at Kraft and Mondelez working on probably about 10 different brands, from Chips Ahoy to Sour Patch Kids to Belvita breakfast biscuits, Ritz, both in brand equity and innovation. So yeah, a variety of different marketing roles. So thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, clearly we have a very wide variety of everything in CPG, different brands, mid-size to large-size brands, agency and client side. So really excited to hear the different perspectives here today. So I'm going to pose this question to all of you. What are some of the key themes and trends you're seeing in CPG this year and for your brand specifically?
I can actually go first. I think for me and from what I've seen in other brands as well, just this emergence of like new omni-channel touch points, particularly as just due to the unprecedented increase in online purchase, which is driven by the COVID-19 and the pandemic, but also after post-pandemic as well, you continue to see increase in online sales. You also see this increase in omni-channel. Can you guys hear? In omni-channel activity as well. I think brands, are really looking at this and saying, hey, we have to get in front of this and put this in the forefront. And really, how do we, and given this, how do we actually develop seamless omni-channel experiences for our consumers that are actually really shopping omni-channel? And thus, what you see and what brands are really either exploring or actually putting sort of in their strategy now are these new emerging channels, such as metaverse, such as social e-commerce, which we at Elemis have really explored. Not only that, but we've saw really great success in social commerce and also in purchase gaming as well, from what I've seen as well. So really, really new touch points in the omni-channel world.
So I think from a CPG perspective, this applies, I think, to a lot of other industries as well. We're having a lot of conversations around data integrity, which you might probably appreciate. I think I've probably had more conversations about taxonomy in the last 6 months than the last 6 years, maybe. There's a lot of excitement around it, which is great. I think for CPGs specifically, the adoption and excitement around clean room technology and the desire to use first-party data in new, interesting ways in commerce specifically have caused this kind of resurgence in conversation around how to structure data properly and at a granular level to actually leverage it consistently. I look after ad ops, so it's close to my heart. It's something that I expect to continue for the rest of this year as a priority for a lot of brands.
Yeah, I think taxonomy definitely and Mondelez was like one of the biggest driving factors to make sure that, we were looking at a gold mine of data. And I think just ownership of all the ad serving data in-house really made a big difference in terms of building our in-house media measurement capabilities. So I think in terms of some of the trends that I know from what I just remember from last week that we were still following, of course, the emergence of retail media. And I think a lot of these different, the foundation is a lot of it in terms of data and the tech around it. So the emergence of retail, and I know we were really going big with several retail players in the industry, and then there was also sort of trying to unlock the big creative effectiveness question, because I think that's something that is still that still is kind of elusive in terms of understanding what part of the content truly connects with our audiences. As Aimee mentioned before, Mondelez had just such a wide variety of brands that catered to all kinds of age groups. So, and then trying to understand different themes of content and creative that really connected with our audiences. And also while we were creating these connections, trying to bring about unique consumer experiences and tying it back into the whole first party space where we would love to know more about the consumers and then try and build our own audience database of sorts around it so that so that we could leverage it in many different ways in some of these newer emerging technologies and methodologies.
Mine's a slightly different tack. I'm seeing the reemergence of audio coming back, and it's really driven by the growth of digital and streaming and podcasts. And I think consumers are really enjoying that bottom-up approach instead of top-down. So really the content where they can really curate, certainly music is the bulk of that, but talk back and that utility content certainly growing. GoGo squeeZ actually, we're in our second year of trying out audio, and the reason we did that was a challenge I think a lot of mid-sized brands have is how do you compete for share of voice and being outspent by competitors? So we're the number 7 brand in snacking for families with kids, but we're actually a top 30 snack brand in totality, in total snacks. So, we really want that mass reach, but we can't afford linear TV, so we really turn to audio to give us that high reach in a more cost-effective way. And so we also looked at our competitors last year, and most of them were spending it on linear TV. I think around 66% were linear, 27% social, almost none on audio. So it really gave us an opportunity to get share of voice and also be where our consumers are. So we now know that through the growth of streaming and digital and podcasts, that more consumers and millennials that we're going after are spending more time on audio than they are on linear TV. So, not only do we get share of voice, but where our consumers are. And I would say it's not just, smaller mid-sized brands. I was reading an article from Ad Age the other week, and Procter & Gamble have really been successfully using audio with their brands to really get that reach that I mentioned before that, you can't really reach some audiences on linear TV anymore. So on average, their brands saw 44% incremental reach through tapping into audio and also in a more cost-effective way.
And I think just to add to that point, the emergence of, again, I think for the agency folks, this, obviously speaks to us because we've worked across this space, but I think with CPG marketers, it's still a newer space in the digital, which is the coming together of owned and earned media. And there's this big push in-house with many CPG firms to always look at a holistic performance of paid and owned and earned. And I think while paid is in a really good space, owned is, I think, where we're really trying to make a lot of push for, whether it's your organic social channels or, trying to obviously reach your consumers through building better experiences on your websites. So there was, so I think even just unifying that entire measurement across these 3 key channels has also been, has been just of importance in many CPG firms as well.
Awesome. Well, I hear a lot of different key themes, but I think, ultimately, of course, as a brand, your goal is to reach your consumers, right? So I heard a ton over the past, today and yesterday about a cookieless world, how, we're moving into more cookie deprecation. So I'd love to ask you guys how you're approaching consumer privacy and the deprecation of cookies. Do you foresee a monumental shift in your media strategy? How is that changing? I'd love to understand that.
I think for Elemis, we've definitely shift our priority and also our goals as well. I think for one, when we're looking at the type of platforms that we want to bring in from a MarTech standpoint, ensuring that those platforms are certified and compliant with some of the GDPR and the CAN-SPAM sort of regulations and protocols as well, particularly when we're actually looking and collecting and processing customer data from the U.S. and also from an international perspective as well. I also think that sort of too, when we're looking at sort of protecting customer data and also sort of considering a cookieless world where it's limiting some of our target advertising. I think what we've done, we've definitely within the past year or 2 years or so, really prepared for this sort of transformation and really begin looking at how can we sort of shift our gears and really begin looking at new ways to collect data as well. We know that third-party data that's going to be non-existing right now. I think there's probably some servers that can still do that, but for what we're doing right now, we're actually utilizing several things. We actually have our loyalty program in terms of really getting sort of that zero-party data and really to understand who our customers are with the understanding and also utilizing our loyalty platform and our program as well. What we've also done is actually really look at or invest in platforms such as a customer database platform where it actually takes our data that we have in-house and really begins identification resolution to really stitch those desperate customer profiles in our siloed platforms all together to really provide us with a single view of the customer journey as well. I think from there you begin to really look at some of the things that you're getting from those third-party cookie information, such as who those customers are, demographic data, how they purchase, when they purchase, where they purchase as well. So you can begin really developing strategic and targeted campaigns within your life cycle in your program as well. And so that's how we've done it. And we're really doing great from a incremental revenue standpoint in terms of, with our CDP, in terms of really deploying and also experimenting and testing and learning some of the campaigns that we have thus far.
From an agency perspective, we've been talking about this, I feel like, ad nauseum in the last couple of years, the deprecation of cookies. I think a lot of people forget that it's not just that, it's also changes in privacy. So we're also impacted by changes in iOS and being able to measure the performance of mobile app environments like Facebook, for example, cookieless environments like Safari. So that's already here. If you advertise on Facebook or Google, your performance is modeled. So I think for our clients and brands, I think we have a choice of planning and optimizing performance to modeled conversions that are in a platform, or building our own model. And perhaps that model takes into account not just paid, but owned and earned as well in some capacity. Ironically, I think CPG has had this answer for some time through marketing mix model. But it hasn't been applied to the same degree that it could be, I think, in a more performance capacity. So we have teams today, for example, that build regression-based models for performance campaigns for the sole purpose of understanding what the holistic performance is in these cookieless environments. So I think CPG in some respects is, I think, ahead of the game in terms of what they can do from a capability perspective. But we don't see it as much as an application today. I think that we probably will in the future.
Yeah, I mean, just expanding on your point, with Mondelez, I think the goal with just integrating and unifying so much of data in-house is to probably build on those models in terms of, sort of building and then kind of being predictive of customer behaviors, customer journeys. And I think that's where I think the push really started once the whole cookieless world, the cookieless discussions had been going on for a while. I think something that's also interesting has been with the emergence of retail media and emergence of clean data rooms. I think that's been a very key driving factor in trying to understand how you can operate in like these very privacy controlled rooms so that obviously every party feels safe about sharing its data, and yet you're not really seeing it, but you're still able to do such amazing things, right? From like ID matching to to working through, again, predictive aspects of any other consumer behaviors in there. So those, I think, emergence of clean data rooms would definitely be like one of the norms, I feel, once it really comes to that. But preparing in advance with different kinds of working on different campaigns through some of these newer emerging technologies would definitely be something to look forward to.
Awesome. So Jim, I know you kind of touched on performance, and we know that Nexus is a pretty performance-heavy company. So I would love to hear more about, how you're approaching performance specifically for CPG companies. We know, the conversion cycle is much longer than a typical brand. A lot of the time, it's offline conversions that you're looking at. So how have you kind of seen that between, brands non-CPG and, of course, we're talking about CPG, more focused on CPG.
So, fundamentally, how we think about performance media is we're optimizing and buying media toward an outcome, right? So in the case of CPG, in a lot of cases, that's the sale of a product that's in a store. If we go back, a year or two ago, it was a little hard to stitch those things together. It's much easier today in a practical sense. So in that respect, when I think about our, like a performance client, like an Audible, the tactics and kind of measurement that we employ for them is very similar to what we would do for a CPG brand. That's different today than it was a year ago, for sure. It's a matter of kind of how we solve for those things. So using things like clean rooms, for example, to understand what the impact is. We work with clients that leverage NCS as a data source, for example, that have integrations with the trade desk. So you can actually bring offline retail stores sales into a DSP environment optimized toward it. You couldn't do that, in recent past. So my sense is as these platforms continue to evolve, we're going to have access to more data, not less from a CPG perspective, which allow us to do some of the more sophisticated things that performance marketers have been doing now for years.
Yeah, I think just again expanding on that. So with performance marketing, obviously with CPG, because we have such long even MMM cycles, you don't really get MMM reads, until like half the year, and sometimes you just get MMM projections. So I think one thing that's also helped has been to develop some kind of directional or proxy KPIs that really indicate your that could be a potential ROI or a potential business outcome by obviously linking several real-time signals to that data. So obviously if you have engagement rate could be one of the good predictors of how your ROI could probably could read out in a certain way. So modeling, I think, in-house some of these more real-time signals and KPIs to the business outcomes has been quite helpful in at least giving some direction to the marketers, especially when it always comes to understanding how best to invest their budgets. And as you're trying to optimize in real time as well, so leveraging again solutions like sales lift solutions in real time with some of these DSP providers, and also the fact that it can be as early as a 2-week read now, or even within a week. So those have been like some of the key game changers, and hopefully you do get significant lifts to see an actual ROI, like a potential ROI come through. So those have been really helpful in trying to get to that point where performance marketing can really help you in real time. And I think it's also where we're trying to understand, even from the creative standpoint, of how holistically we can measure a creative performance and then again link that to business outcomes. So for any CPG marketer, I think the goal is, of course, to hit those sales numbers, to hit those market share numbers. And I think the moment you start to see those linkages, marketers get more confidence in using some of these performance marketing KPIs. And I think that's where we've seen like some good traction, back at Mondelez.
Awesome. A little fun question for you guys. What keeps you up at night? And I'm talking from a media standpoint, of course.
I promise I'll get to the media part of the question, but what keeps me up at night is just the macroeconomic volatility that we've seen, the economic uncertainty, the political instability, social, even environmental, and I think we all felt it, in 2020 with the global supply chains with COVID, and while the trucks and the ports and the shipping has somewhat stabilized, it kind of just shifts to something else. We've seen the war in Ukraine and the impact that's had on natural gas and also some food supplies. Inflation, 80% of consumers are still worried about inflation. That's not too far down from 86% last year, according to Kantar. Government stimulus, just the other week, SNAP benefits that the boosters given for COVID came away, so that really impacts low-income households. For the for the broader Americans, mortgage interest rates have doubled in the last 18 months. So all of these things come into play, and they all have an impact on business, whether it be consumer behavior, commodities, operations. And then, so, what does that mean for marketers and marketing? And I think, how I see it is just this constant state of volatility. And really, the new expectation from my CFO is that marketing has that flexibility, the agility to give money back where these things come up and the business is constrained. So I would say, we're sitting here, we're still in April. I've had three budget cuts already this year in the millions of dollars. So that just requires a level of agility and flexibility that we didn't have, a couple of years ago. And a lot of marketing budget sits within media, so it really makes you rethink working with your media partners on how far ahead you purchase. Is it annually? Does it go by half, by quarter? Thinking about the media mix, how do you balance those more rigid, less flexible partners or channels like terrestrial radio or linear TV that take a long time to cancel with more flexible digital partners. And then, I've learned by doing over the last year or so is how can you get ahead of it? How can you really have a pulse on the business? What's happening in performance? Speaking to your cross-functional colleagues in supply chain, operations, procurement, being proactive so you can make them be strategic decisions impacting your budget and media plan versus reactive. So, that's what keeps me up at night.
Understandably so. And not only CPG, but so many brands are, of course, facing budget cuts, unfortunately, trying to, adjust their media strategy on the fly. So I guess I will turn this over to everyone as potentially our last question, depending how we're doing on timing, and then could do a little Q&A. But what have you guys seen as your most successful tactic so far this year or in even the year prior?
I think for us, we've just actually implemented a customer database platform, that stitches our customer profile data. But the thing that actually sort of the advantage and some of the things that we like about it, that it has sort of this AI predictive analytic technology. And as we know that, with just these conversations around Chat GPT and just this AI in general, it's become this huge buzzword. It's for us, it's really what's the impact of AI and predictability, particularly when we're actually developing true unique customer segments for certain behaviors that we actually see when we're trying to develop these targeted campaigns as well. So really looking at how do we use AI to develop these true sort of unique segmentation models to help us unlock churn, to help us really unlock sort of the incremental revenue that we actually see and that we actually can now see now that we've sort of stitched our customer data and profiles, and we can actually see sort of that single customer view as well. So really looking at the impact of AI to really truly see what's the true impact of our business, not only from a marketing standpoint, but also from, as Aimee mentioned, just from looking at your different channels and really looking at what channels are really truly driving and where do we actually put our investment and money to continue to drive ROI and incrementality.
This will be maybe a non-media answer from a media person, but I think from a tactic perspective, one thing we've found that's really successful is around PDP optimization. I think as marketers, we spend a lot of time thinking about the media side and getting folks to the experience and less about the experience once we get them there. And I think we underestimate the effect it can have, things like changing images, copy, and the impact on the flywheel that exists on Amazon, not just on the paid side, but on the organic side as well. It's been really successful. I think where possible, we try to have our paid media teams work with our SEO and teams in some capacity, because there's definitely a benefit.
I think from a successful tactic standpoint, I think just getting a good balance of your media execution and creative execution still plays such a fundamental role, because that is something that we constantly, I mean, sometimes you feel like you've got it right, but then once you see the ROIs, then you start to really wonder what really happened there. But I think once you follow your brilliant basics, you follow the ABCs of your creative, making sure you get the branding right, the messaging right, and keeping that consistent effort in every single campaign, every single creative. Especially it's hard to keep up in digital because obviously you're running with just so much of volume there in terms of the content as well as the placements, the execution, the creation. So just the focus on being very disciplined and consistent with all the optimizations. And then, of course, I think balancing that with good media execution. So I think, that's where you really see a good blend of the two coming together to give successful campaigns. So those, to be honest, I think still, will still hold true. And then coming back to, I think, what Laillah was just referring to, for me, I think that would be like one of the key areas, and that still keeps me up at night actually right now, is how best we can leverage ChatGPT in terms of whether it's content creation, whether it's even building predictive models, whether it's like, there's just so much that you can do with it. It's so limitless. And I wouldn't just call it a buzzword. I feel like it has immense potential to just change the way we're really working with our content and creatives right now. So that definitely will, like for example, like recently Kraft Heinz, I think, did a very successful campaign with just telling the AI to pull up a picture of ketchup, and it actually pulled up a picture of just the Heinz bottle. So it's trying to tell that, even AI thinks like ketchup is Heinz, and that was their creative. That's it. Like that was the idea. And it went so viral that just based on what Dolly could just give a basic image of a Heinz bottle. And I think that's sort of, where I feel like creativity would just take such a big turn and such a big shift in the way, we're trying to connect with our consumers. So even if like tomorrow we were to think of our campaigns that span across like some of the big purpose ones to like very day-to-day digital heavy, ads that keep popping up on our mobile phones, the way we leverage AI would be very key to, building that real-time success with our audiences.
Cool. For GoGo squeeZ, we grew 24% last year, and I'd say one thing that we did really well was our shopper strategy. So for where we put focus, so our key retailers like Walmart, Target, and Kroger, 30% of GoGo squeeZ is sold online. And then when you look at Amazon, we're a top 10 snack on Amazon consistently, not just in kids snacking, but in total snacking. So there's probably key three things that drive success there. I think, not rocket science, but just getting the fundamentals right around content, PDP, strategy. So with our retailers, we have a 90 to 100% range score across the board. And so it's just really doing those fundamentals really well in terms of setting up the content, having the right keywords there, reviews, things like that. Secondly is defensive advertising. So I look after shopper and national. So I say on the shopper side, it's really starting from the bottom of the funnel up, really ensuring we maintain that category leadership in applesauce. So keeping our current users there and the prospecting ones coming to us. But then also increasing share of voice on our yogurt products. Our yogurt products actually shelf stable. So it's a real advantage for us online versus refrigerated competitors. So we sell upwards of 40% of yogurt online. So really doing that, competitive keywords. So we've seen targeting competitive PDPs. We've seen up to 66% of campaigns on Amazon being new to brand, while still maintaining a positive return on ad spend. And then keeping our subscribe and save consumers happy, reminding them about the brands. About 20% of our business on Amazon's subscribe and save. And then the last one I would say is that orchestration of shopper marketing with national media and driving that top of funnel awareness. So one partner we've been really successful with is Kroger. So using Kroger's data with KPM on Roku. So we tested and learned last year and then have gone heavier this year and really had that fantastic data set to go onto the Roku platform. And we've seen double-digit increase in purchase intent, and also brand worth paying more for, which is really important in an inflationary environment. Just a couple more. Walmart on our display campaign. So we've built lookalike audiences for the GoGo squeeZ user based on shopper habits. And we've seen with non-users, targeting non-users, so we've seen a $20 ROAS from that campaign. What else? And then just testing and learning. So on Target, we're very focused on the tactics like staying on site with Target. It's more expensive, but we think that quality CPM's worth it for us, and we get really strong results there.
Awesome. Love to hear the variety of different tactics that work for each individual brand. So love to hear that. Maybe we turn over, not Q&A, just wrap up. Awesome. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you guys so much for providing the insight into your brands. And thank you again to Brand Innovators for having us.
Thank you.